And there was hardly anything about Jesus Christ in it.
I know, it never is. Absolutely.
It's all happy talk about, positive energy and getting yourself together
life,
yes. and making money and making
That's
a happy life for yourself. And Jesus Christ is really, is only secondary to his message.
If somebody wanted to torture me...
And he talks like this, and he's just such a nice guy.
With that smile that's nailed onto his face? No, really, if somebody wanted to torture me...
I'm sorry, that's not very Christian, but,
it is accurate,
makes me
though.
sick.
No, it's accurate, come on. Now, let me get this out. If you wanted to torture me, all you had to do was bring me and nail me down to a seat from which I could not move and watch Wayne Dyer and Joel Osteen talk. I have no idea.
That's enough to, that would make you vomit.
There you go. It would make you crazy. What are you guys talking about?
Yeah.
Well, they're both just talking about happy.
And that clown in the Crystal Cathedral, Schuler.
Oh, they went bankrupt, by the way.
Oh, I can't stand that
man. They went bankrupt.
Good.
I know. And you know who bought the Crystal Cathedral?
No.
The RC Church. It doesn't get any better than that.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, the Schuler children.
Well, they got the money.
Yeah, that's true.
They ain't going bankrupt, dude.
Yeah, Lady Viz was absolutely fascinated by the Schuler breakup. I mean, the kids are going after each other and all this stuff.
Oh, good. I hope they just embarrass themselves right and left on national television. Oh,
well, I would say they did that for the last 30 years, but no,
the man came on and I'm not a Muslim hater, okay, but the man came on and said, well, in 30 years, I'll be long dead, but if I came back and found that my grandchildren were all Muslims, that would be just okay with me. And I'm thinking, what kind of a Christian would make a statement like that?
Well, unfortunately, he and Billy Graham got involved in a little apostasy too, which I was really sorry to see.
Yeah, this ecumenism thing is gone completely off the wall. I mean, I'm sorry.
What's the first clue? Crystal Cathedral. I'm out of here. No, we're not doing anything with Crystal, all right? No, channel me mama. No thanks.
Woo! Yeah.
All right. Thinking about the structure of the CIA, the fact that it was facilitated by the Vatican. Lastly, have you come across anything to the effect? I know I have, but I just want to see if some other information you come across that also takes a look at the structure of the cardinals in this country. Cardinals, with Dolan being the chief poobah, also involved, as I think they were, especially when the CIA was being, shall we say, well, we should say restructured because it never had been structured before than the OSS. In the restructuring, it seemed that there was, I guess, complicity by the Vatican. Did you find any tie-in between the CIA apparatus and that of, shall we say, the Cardinal system, or at least the Knights of Malta?
Well, yeah, the Knights of Malta, definitely, when you get down to it, the majority of the heavyweights within the early CIA and even into today were Knights of Malta. Dulles was not a Knight of Malta since he was not Catholic, but you had Wild Bill McDonald and several of the others. I'm sorry, I wasn't really prepared to answer the question, but
no. Was it a Wild Bill?
But I have read that the majority of those guys, the higher ups in the CIA, were Knights of Malta, and also it became a sort of a matter of procedure for them to share information with the Vatican. In other words, intelligence gathered by the CIA was shared with the Vatican from the earliest days on.
All right, let me clarify. It was Wild Bill Donovan.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah, Wild Bill Donovan. He definitely was a Knight of Malta and a big supporter of the Vatican.
Now, I don't think Protestants are necessarily prescribed how much of a Protestant they can be.
Yeah, you can be in the Knights of Malta as a Protestant, but generally, especially back in those days, it wasn't considered acceptable. Alan Dulles was, I wouldn't call him a Protestant. I wouldn't call him anything but just an evil SOB.
Right, exactly.
I mean, he's no Christian. I'm sorry. Couldn't have been.
No.
He was nothing but a Nazi as far as I'm concerned.
No, I agree. But I was wondering about that too, because the Knights of Malta have a very interesting kind of thing going on too, because
right.
in Rome, inside Rome, you have the Vatican, which is a nation state, and I believe inside the Vatican you have the Knights of Malta, which have their own separate deal.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, the Knights of Malta is also a nation state. Basically, they have diplomatic recognition, and
yes,
they issue stamps. They issue passports, if I remember correctly.
And unless you think I got this from some tinfoil hat wearer, that came right from the Today Show when they ventured over to
Matt Lauer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you told me that before.
Yeah. Don't start. But I love the fact that they
it's
did
your
that.
show, and you can say this stuff over and over again.
Yeah, as my teeth fall out of my head. But I just thought it was so rich because they're doing it on one level. Nobody's watching it in America is thinking, well, that's weird. And I'm like, holy mackerel, I can't believe it.
I think in one of the early episodes, we talked about the Knights of Malta quite a bit. I read a lot of material about them. And I don't remember which one it was, but, the audience, if they're interested, could go back and listen to some of those early ones and pick that one out.
Gordon's incensed also because now he realizes why and I'm saying this partly tongue-in-cheek, but Walter Veith has a whole bunch of new stuff out, which I think we all should watch on YouTube. All right? Walter Veith, I think, is a pretty solid researcher.
Yeah.
And, of course, he gets besmirched because, oh, my goodness, he's a Seventh-day Adventist. That means everything he has to say is bad. So get lost.
Yeah, and that's a lot of garbage.
Hooey.
I mean, I don't buy into some of their belief system, but Walter Veith doesn't really pound on that too much. He really just goes into his research and, does a real good job of it, I think.
And he has kept both separate. He says, you want to talk about the Seventh-day Adventists, we can do that, but he never weaves it in to what he's doing on that.
No,
so, yes.
That's really not his purpose.
No.
He's not there to, at that point, proselytize for the Seventh-day Adventists.
But I have to tell you, Gordon's upset now, but now he understands why the Pittsburgh Steelers have always had preparatory calls in championship games. Rooney is a Knight of Malta.
Uh-oh.
Well,
I didn't know that.
Well, I know where I'm going to lay my bets next year.
See, I've always hated the Pittsburgh Steelers, so there you go.
Why, because they kicked the Cowboys' rear end?
No, I'm not a Cowboys fan. It's my Oilers, man.
Oh, that's right. They
cheated my Oilers.
Right, the Oilers are now.
We won't get into that.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I'm sorry.
Anyway.
That's right. You weren't a Cowboy. You were always an AFL.
No, sir. Not a Cowboys fan.
All righty.
Always a Houston Oilers fan.
All
and
right.
Houston Texans, a plug for them. Hey.
Are you a Texan fan now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Big time.
All right.
Yeah,
so
big time. I really like the team.
That's why your picks always stink, because you live and
hey,
die
my
with
picks
the
weren't
Texans.
that bad. I just didn't participate enough.
Yeah, you and Goros are going to get back into this as inclusives, not like last year where you were like, I don't know, how many, well, never mind. Okay.
Okay.
All right, now, let's get back to the serious stuff.
Yeah.
And I had just asked you about that because there is a framework, I do believe, that is somewhat congruous or related to the cardinal system in the United States and the CIA apparatus.
Well, I think, trying to think of your friend Eric, can't remember Eric's last name. Eric Phelps. Although I don't buy into a lot of what Phelps believes, I have to put that as a disclaimer in there.
I understand.
Especially his racial ideas. I just don't buy into that at all. But Phelps pointed out some of the very close associations between the CIA and the American government in general and the higher-ups in the Roman Catholic Church in the United States, and especially like people like Cardinal Spellman. So, that's something else people can do research into. If you stay away from the more toxic areas that Phelps has, as in some of his racial ideas, and just get into his more sensible political stuff, the guy has some great information.
Let me just state this. I watched Phelps for some time, and I've spoke out about this from 2007, getting involved in what I considered very questionable alliances with the likes of Szymanski and Bill Deagle.
Oh, yeah.
And some other people. But now, two things. One, he's starting to use jargon just like Hal Turner did, Savage Negro Beasts, okay?
Yeah.
And that the guy, then, of course, you shoot him down as being credible. But there was a time before that when I thought his research was sterile, free of all kinds of other, shall we say, taints. That is not the case now, but that does not make him bad back then. And the other thing is this. Phelps is not the only person who's ever written about this. He is one of the more recent people who have at least extended that to us. But as you know,
that research goes back hundreds of years.
Yeah, and we've amassed about 80 titles.
Yeah.
So it's like, no. You can bang on him, and rightfully so. That doesn't vitiate his original work.
No.
And beyond that, he's not the only guy.
Well, the reason I brought Phelps up was that he did a very thorough job in showing the connections between the hierarchy of the Roman Catholic Church, the Vatican, and the American government, especially intelligence agencies, and how they work hand in hand.
He brought out also, Larry, and I'll leave it at this, and that is, and I believe that to be true, that the cardinal who presides in New York City is pretty much what you might call the president of everything else. Yeah,
he's like the first lieutenant for the Pope. You know, he's a guy who is in charge of what's going down in the United States. You know, and he reports to the Pope.
I would go and say this.
That's the way I see it. I don't know.
Not a problem. But I would say you've got Rockefeller at 30 Rock in Midtown.
Yeah.
You've got Dolan, and before him, obviously, he goes back to Spellman and Spelly's War, which was the Vietnam War.
Oh, yeah. You talk about a guy who had a lot of influence on American politics, and that's Spellman. You know.
So you've got Rocky, and you've got whoever the cardinal is in St. Patrick's. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what do you think DC's for? Window dressing. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's my statement. It doesn't have to be yours, but that is my contention. That's where things go down. Mm-hmm. So
I don't have a big problem with that.
Okay.
I mean,
and then the CFR is also in the biz. That's, you know.
I'll tell you what, you've inspired me to come up with some research, you know, for one of these episodes. I'm not sure the next one or however many there will be, but I hope to kind of piece that together a little better, talking about the Knights of Malta and the influence of the Roman Catholic Church on the American government and on the Fourth Reich, which they are the religious element of. And I have done that throughout this series, but you know, maybe we could do it a little more thoroughly.
Okay. All right.
At any rate,
thanks for that.
I wanted to talk about the CIA, and before I get into the CIA, just briefly talk about the Warren Commission. One more quote, and here's a quote from another guy who used to be a really good researcher, but kind of off the reservation recently, but John Judge. And he talks about the Warren Report. And when I went into the archives, about 300 cubic feet of the minutes from the meetings, were notes, voluminous notes from these 5 different staff investigative teams to the Warren Commission in relation to the final report, which they had read. And the notes say, what's the basis for this conclusion? What's the evidence for this? Line after line. Even the liars couldn't go as far as the author of the Warren Commission report had gone. But the report went out intact. Hale Boggs asked in one of the meetings whether they should print any of the evidence. I guess you know, Boggs said, it might look a little fishy if we didn't. Go ahead and print it, Dulles said. Nobody will read it anyway. Americans don't read. And Boggs said, a few of those people out there know how to read. I doubt he meant me, but here I am. That was a statement from Judge. And next says, and when you read it, you can find it out. But the person that actually wrote the report is a fellow named Otto Wienerker. He was on TDY, transferred from the Pentagon to the Warren Commission to do that job. He was also historically one of the 26 official historians of the Reich who worked directly under the Reich's Chancellor Adolf Hitler and was brought here into the United States. That always makes you feel good to know the Warren Report was written by a Nazi.
We wouldn't have
go into who served on the Warren Commission, and we'll talk about how that relates to the CIA. The leader of the pack was Alan Dulles, former director of the CIA. This is from Joseph Ron, America Betrayed. The leader of the pack was Allen Dulles, former director of the CIA. A curious choice. Dulles had been fired by Kennedy because Kennedy believed Dulles was untrustworthy and a liar. What kind of man was Allen Dulles? He was a man who had been in business with Nazis, who sought to have SS chief and mass murderer Heinrich Himmler take the place of Hitler, and who had recruited Nazi mass murderers for his CIA and into the Republican Party. Whereas his Nazi partners tortured and killed millions, Dulles and his CIA were directly responsible for the mass murder and torture of hundreds of thousands of men, women, and children. Dulles was a killer. He had a Nazi mentality. Second in command, John J. McCloy, chairman of Chase Manhattan Bank, a bank owned by the Rockefellers and a bank that was used as a Nazi front and which laundered Nazi funds and which stole tens of millions of dollars from Jews who were being murdered and worked to death in the concentration camps being run by Rockefeller business partner I.G. Farben. Indeed, Rockefeller's Chase Manhattan Bank, like the Bush-Harriman gang, continued its relationship with the Nazis even after Pearl Harbor and after the Nazis declared war on the United States. It was because of Chase-Rockefeller collusion with the Nazis that lawsuits were filed by victims of its business practices. Chase and other Nazi banks were forced to pay millions of dollars in compensation to those it stole from and who were murdered and whose property was seized by its Nazi business partners. Earl Warren, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and a former Dulles Rockefeller protege, was basically third in command. At the urgings of Dulles and Rockefeller, Earl Warren had been chosen to serve as the 1948 Republican vice presidential candidate on a ticket headed by Thomas Dewey. They ran against Truman, accusing him and the Democrats of being communist sympathizers, and they lost. Having Dulles and McCloy head the Warren Commission is tantamount to having Murder Incorporated investigate itself. Dulles had the motive and certainly the means to kill Kennedy, as did his CIA lieutenants. Let us also recall that McCloy attended a private meeting the night before, which was attended by Nixon, Hoover, and Johnson, and at the end of which comments were made to the effect that Kennedy would be no more. Other commissioners included Democratic Senator Russell, Republican Senator Cooper, Republican Congressman Gerald Ford, and Democratic Congressman Hale Boggs. And then there's yet another Yale skull and bones connection. Arlen Specter, who graduated from Yale Law School, served as assistant counsel and investigator of the Warren Commission. Specter is credited with coming up with the magic bullet theory. Warren Commission investigator Specter was promised a political career leading to a Senate seat by the money men, and Specter was elected first as a district attorney in a heavily Democratic district, and then to the Senate with their help. Specter became chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. As a Republican senator, he has been described by his Senate colleagues as a partisan hatchet man serving at the behest of the Senate Republican leadership. And he has been criticized by some of his Republican colleagues on the Judiciary Committee for being too loose with the facts. They refuse to put their names on reports he authored. One of Specter's attributes is the ability to dig up or manufacture dirt, which he uses to intimidate, destroy, or manipulate his enemies and those of the Republican leadership. Boggs later complained that FBI Director Hoover had ordered his aides to compile secret dossiers on each member of the Warren Commission so he would have adequate dirt in his files to apply certain pressures if a need arose. Boggs also complained that Gestapo tactics were applied on commissioners to accept the Dulles-McCloy-Specter version of the evidence. Soon after making these statements, Boggs was killed. Then we go on to the CIA in general and what it's really all about.
Well, state how he was killed. He and Begich were lost in a plane crash in Alaska.
Right.
Somehow couldn't find him for...
Yeah, there's no evidence of where he is, you know. He just kind of drifted away there. I don't know what happened.
Whoops. Okay,
again from America Betrayed by Ron, we talked about the CIA. He talks about them quite a bit in the book, and it does a real good job. He has a lot of research that he did to back up what he's saying, too. The CIA thus became a Nazi refuge and would soon become an instrument of Nazi-like terror. The CIA, like the Gestapo, would employ espionage, propaganda, terror, chemical and biological warfare, including the purposeful infection and murder of an innocent American and foreign citizens, to obtain its objectives. And like the Gestapo, the CIA would be, as still is, above the law, and its agents would be encouraged to break the law and to commit crimes against humanity. Let me take a drink of water here. The CS is the only, CS is the only part of the IC intelligence community that's covert. I forget what CS means, but it's covert. Anyway, indeed of the government, where hundreds of employees on a daily basis are directed to break extremely serious laws in countries around the world. A safe estimate is that several hundred times a day, easily 100,000 times a year, officers engage in highly illegal activities that not only risk political embarrassment to the U.S., but also endanger the freedom, if not the lives, of the participating foreign nationals, and more than occasionally of the clandestine officer himself. This was from a report of the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, House of Representatives, 104th Congress, 1996. Over the last 50 years, this is Braun again, over the last 50 years, it is now documented these Americanized fugitive Nazi war criminals have been involved in many cases, in charge of U.S. government covert operations, international weapons smugglings, drug cartels, Central American death squad, right-wing anti-communist dictatorships, LSD mind control experiments, the Republican National Committee's ethnic heritage councils, and the presidential campaigns of Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, and George Bush. Hitler's dream and his SS essentially became the CIA. Indeed, the Dulles, Bush, Harriman, Rockefeller clique, like Hitler before them, would employ Nazi CIA terrorists not just for spying and murder, but as instruments to be used for gaining incredible wealth as well as political power, and as yet another means of gaining control of the United States government. The CIA was the afterbirth of a marriage between Hitler's SS and the OSS. In 1944, William J. Donovan, the creator of the OSS, and his assistant, Alan Dulles, presented a draft proposal for the creation of a super spy agency, which, quote, which will procure intelligence both by overt and covert means and will at the same time provide intelligence guidance, determine national intelligence objectives, and correlate the intelligence materials collected by all government agencies. 3 years later, in 1947, Harry Truman agreed to the formation of a centralized intelligence agency, with Dulles acting as director. In 1949, the Central Intelligence Agency Act was passed, thus creating a spy agency which would be modeled after the SS and which would be above the law and could carry out its activities in secret and independent of congressional scrutiny. The act also exempted the CIA from having to disclose its, quote, organization, functions, officials, titles, salaries, or number of employees, personnel employees, Dulles immediately began recruiting Nazi terrorists and SS torturers to fill the ranks and to teach SS methods to new CIA recruits. Almost overnight, the CIA became a criminal enterprise devoted to protecting the business interests of the Wall Street elite, including those directed or controlled by Bush, Harriman, Rockefeller, and the Dulles brothers. Anyone and everyone challenging or threatening the ability of these men and their associates to make money and to rape and exploit third world countries became dangers to national security. Opponents would be eliminated, their governments or organizations toppled, and indigenous population, including workers, murdered or terrorized into submission, tactics identical to those employed by Hitler's SS, the Brotherhood of Death. Next we go to a man named John Stockwell, and he talks about his experience in the CIA. I worked in the CIA for 13 years, explained John Stockwell in a speech given on October 10, 1987. In 1978, Stockwell, the highest-ranking CIA official ever to lead the agency and go public, was awarded the Medal of Merit before he resigned. I sat on a subcommittee on the NSC, National Security Council, so I was like a chief of staff of the GS-18s, Henry Kissinger, Bill Colby, the CIA director, making the important decisions. My job was to put it all together and make it happen and run it. I was conditioned by my training, my Marine Corps training, and my background to believe in everything they were saying about the Cold War, and I took the job with great enthusiasm, only to discover that nothing we were doing, in fact, defended U.S. national security interests. The CIA, the State Department, works with the death squads. They don't meet the death squads on the street where they're actually chopping up people or laying them down on the street and running trucks over their heads. The CIA people meet the police chiefs and the people who run the death squads, and they do liaise with them, and they meet them beside the swimming pool of the villas. And it's a sophisticated, civilized kind of relationship. And they talk about their children who are going to school at UCLA or Harvard. They don't talk about the horrors of what's being done. I went to Nicaragua a total of 7 times. This was a major covert action. It gave me a chance after running operations from Washington to go to a country that was under attack, to talk to the leadership, to talk to the people, to look and see what happens when you give white phosphorus or grenades or bombs to people and they go inside a country. It gave me a chance to talk to the people who've been shot or hit or blown up. We're talking about 10 to 20,000 covert actions. The Indonesian covert action of 65 not only eliminated the Indonesian Communist Party, it also eliminated the entire segment of the population that tended to support the Communist Party, the ethnic Chinese, the Indonesian Chinese. The CIA's report put the number of dead at 800,000 killed. Ralph McGehee, who helped run that operation, said that this was a model operation that should be copied everywhere in the world. That's the sentiment in Washington. If you're killing 1 to 3 million communists, that's great. The problem, though, is that these people killed by our national security activities are not always communists. They're not communists. They're not communist KGB. The CIA creates police units that become death squads with the leaders on the CIA's payroll trained by the CIA. We had the public safety program going through Central and Latin America for 26 years in which we taught them to break up subversion by interrogating people. Interrogation includes torture. Dan Metrion, the famous exponent of these things, was the master of the business, how to apply the right amount of pain at just the right times in order to get the response you want from the individual. They developed a wire. They gave them crank generators with U.S. aid written on the side so the victims would know where these things came from. Now, how do you teach torture? Dan Metrion. I can teach you about torture, but sooner or later you'll have to get involved. You'll have to lay on your hands and try it for yourself. To teach torture, sometimes they would grab beggars from off the street. All they could do was lie there and scream. And when they would collapse, they would bring in doctors and shoot them up with vitamin B and rest them up for the next class. And when they would die, they would mutilate the bodies and throw them out on the streets to terrify the population so they would be afraid of the police and the government. And this is what the CIA was teaching them to do. To destabilize Nicaragua, beginning in 1981, we began funding Somoza's ex-National Guardsmen, calling them the Contras, counter-revolutionaries. We created this force. It did not exist until we allocated money. We armed them, put uniforms on their backs, boots on their feet, given them camps in Honduras to live in, medical supplies, doctors, training, leadership, and then sent them in to destabilize Nicaragua. Under our direction, they systematically blew up granaries, sawmills, bridges, government offices, schools, health centers. They ambushed trucks so the produce couldn't get to the market. They raided farms and villages. They assassinated religious workers, teachers, health workers, elected officials, government administrators. They used terror, a technique to traumatize the society so that it couldn't function. They'd go into villages, haul out families, and with the children forced to watch, they'd castrate the father, peel the skin off his face, put a grenade in his mouth, and pull the pin. With the children forced to watch, they'd gang rape the mother and slash her breast off. And sometimes, for variety, they make the parents watch while they do these things to the children. It's been documented that 13,000 people were killed this way in Nicaragua, mostly women and children. These are the activities done by these Contras. The Contras are the people Reagan and Bush call freedom fighters. Could stop there if you have any questions or comments. Sorry about the graphic nature of that, but that's the man's testimony, and that's what the CIA has done and is still doing. I mean, Abu Ghraib prison, that people try to laugh that off as some kind of a prank or something, just somebody blowing off steam, but there's some awfully evil things being done in the name of the American government.
I mean, it's arguable that everyone's engaged in this kind of thing, and I think it's true because all nations' governments are corrupt. I mean, I remember, Rita Williams telling me, being a child in the German countryside, that what they heard on radio was that when Germany capitulated, they were just praying, literally praying that the Allies would get there before the Russians did. Okay. So, I mean, we have worn the white hat sometimes, but for the most part, all nations engage in a very corrupt and absolutely nihilistic practice. And that's
right.
the way it's always is. I mean, to think that
I think it's really frightening about what the CIA was doing. And these are Nazi tactics. I mean, they learned these from Nazis. I mean, they're passed down. It's this abject terror, just horrific. I mean, forcing children to watch their parents brutalized, their father castrated and his head blown off, or whole body blown to pieces with a grenade, their mother's gang raped, and this is nothing more than a terror tactic to completely traumatize people and make them completely complicit. And, this is something that the Nazis, were big on and developed. Like the guy was talking about, they instructed people on how to get the most out of torturing somebody. It's really frightening. Really frightening to think that. And then all that time, the American press is is here. I remember all that crap about the Contras. Oh, they're freedom fighters against the evil communists down there in Nicaragua. That's all we ever heard. And then Oliver North and all the, the machinations that he was going through with, smuggling drugs and guns and all that going back and forth.
I mean, he's a great liar.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, can you imagine him up there just like, yeah, I know. I mean, and then when he popped up on right-wing radio and stuff, it's like, Ali, just shut up. You're a pig. Go away.
Yeah.
You're a great American. That's a great American. Shoot me. And no doubt they would. But when I hear all this stuff, it just comes to a point where how do human beings become so desensitized to look at other human beings as if they were nothing but cockroaches? Like, let's just do this. I mean, yeah, we're supposed to be above that. But this whole story about the United States, and this is why we're doing this whole thing, Larry, also, is because we know that Americans are propagandized into believing they can't be propagandized.
Right. That's the thing that's the most sickening about it all, is being fed this BS about how our country is out there to promote freedom in the world, and we're supposed to be out there trying to help people and fight against tyranny and blah, 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 when in fact we are the tyranny. American business interests are the tyranny. We have become what we hated.
Yep. America
had many problems and did things that were wrong long before the end of World War II, but since the end of World War II, we have become the Fourth Reich and are in the process of becoming, I think we're already there.
Yeah, we're there.
It's just that it's going to get worse if that's possible, and I think it's more than possible that it will.
We can argue about this, and it's not worth it, but as far as the time that it takes in a modus operandi, I mean, I don't think we're going to see, doesn't matter what I think. I mean, you look at the terror that the Nazis struck in Germany. I don't know that our military will do that to us here, but I think that some things do change. They just kind of. Well,
they were prepared to do it during the 60s. If you remember what I was reading there about what they were planning to do, they had what they were calling mug files. They had assassins. They were gathering information on people who were protesting against the war. They were gathering information on people that they considered to be a problem. They killed off the leadership, and that seemed to be sufficient for them. I think the one time that they came out and did a very Nazi-like action to intimidate the public was at Kent State. We've talked about that quite a bit.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying that if they ever want to revisit this, and I'm not so sure it's going to be the same way. I think what they're trying to do is, you remember the way things were back then. What I think is happening now is they're trying to, who's they? I mean, the handlers are trying and have created a population that, one, is not going to be very reactionary. They're pretty much little pleasure packages, just give me my electric stimuli and I'll be okay. I think. And this is what...
Well, I think they're working toward that. Whether it be totally successful or not, I don't know. But even if it's not, those who would still go against the government, who might protest, who might be in the streets, those people are pretty easy to clean up. And they would clean them up if they had to.
Yeah, and where I'm going with this is that we saw some very violent episodes between arguably 68 through 70.
Yeah.
And Kent State was just was such an absolutely abject, horrific moment that everything stopped like that. It's like the final chord in the Beatles. What is it, A Day in the Life? Or what is it?
I know what effect it had on me. I went to, I'll just admit this, I went to a protest right afterwards because I was young and pretty macho in those days. And I thought, they can't do that. They can't stop us from protesting. But, later, as the years have gone by, I started realizing you were really a dummy to do that. Yes, they can stop you. And during this protest, the cops started throwing a lot of tear gas and clubbing people. And I saw that, and I'm thinking, I'm not ever going to do this again because, I'm just putting myself in a position to get picked off, And it was really tough, but in a way it was kind of an affront to my manhood, that I wanted to get out there and
sure.
and confront them, I wanted to do something, anything.
Well,
and I wasn't going out there to hurt somebody. Don't get me wrong, but I didn't like the idea of them telling me I don't have the right to protest, that I don't have a right to to say, hey, this is wrong, stop this, to have my voice heard, and it's kind of like that joke about, the guy getting up, they cannot stop free men, and about that time,
yeah.
the bullet rings out,
Well,
and they can stop you, and you're not free. And as I've gotten older, I begin to realize, they do it through various means. Most of the time, they use the media. They use fraud. They use deception. They use propaganda. But if they have to, they'll literally do something physical, and they will kill you. And Martin Luther King found that out, and so did Bob Kennedy, and so did Jack Kennedy. And it's these people, had become a threat in the eyes of a certain element, and they were eliminated as a result.
I'll say from 63 through 70 was the hairiest time, and hairier than anything we've seen thus far.
I don't think a lot of younger people can really relate to what we talk about during that period of time. I was politically active in the late 60s, only from the standpoint of I did go to protests. I became very angry about, I've talked about things that I found out that I was being lied to, and I believed that what was being done was unjust, and I wanted to do something about it. It was just on that level, and I saw, just the machinery that we were up against. And it became obvious to me, especially right after Kent State, that, hey, man, they're not kidding around anymore. They will kill you. And they will get away with it. They will make up some story and run it through the media, and they will accuse you of doing something violent. They will accuse you of whatever to make it look like they are justified in killing you.
Now,
and it really brought me down because I realized I didn't live in a free country. I did not live in a republic. I lived in an oligarchy that had a facade of a republic. It didn't matter who I voted for, Tweedledee or Tweedledummer. I had only an illusion of a choice, and all I could do at that point, what I did do at that time, was kind of retreat into trying to create a better life for myself as best I could. I got married, had kids, and went through the typical American scenario for a young man, and it was a real revelation to me, and it was really brought me down when I realized that the America that I grew up with, the Leave It to Beaver, Father Knows Best America, just really was never there. It was an illusion, and it was very painful looking at that.
with the information that you've imparted now, and with a couple of things I want to ask of you, we can probably bring this to a close.
Yeah.
And this is a good break point for you as well. We'll just jump into it the next time around. Is that
okay?
Okay?
Next time around, I'd like to talk about the Nazi Republican wing, the Republican wing of the Nazi wing of the Republican Party, or the Republican wing of the Nazi Party, whichever one you like. But go ahead.
No, take the Tea Party with you too. Their rhetoric is just.
I got kind of fired up there when I was talking about what happened in the '60s. My adrenaline level went up a little bit.
I sat here with my
pants.
I wet my pants. You got me scared. No, but I mean, seriously, you would agree. Throw the Tea Party in there too.
Yeah.
By the way, I have to tell you, on the way to go out biking, Lady Viz and I were behind a pickup truck.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it was a Ford.
Oh man!
And I had a Nissan. Ha! And on the back were 2 Ron Paul stickers.
Oh, God.
Also, something written across a black sheep of the family because he had a black truck. I get it. And also, this is what I love: this little sticker of the New Hampshire flag. Live free or die.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this. I'm going, oh my God, there's somebody else that's in the Tea Party. I mean, I don't know it, but I would say that that's all the trappings, and they don't get it. So eventually I got a chance to pull up alongside and look in there, and he and his wife are people who should be put in Greenland forever. They're very scary and very big people. But let's go to this now, and seriously, what you recounted and what we all went through, you and me and others, it's going to be different this time. And again, looking back, the reason why we're doing this, and that is, how people got fired up in Germany for World War I and World War II. Mm-hmm. This time around, I think you will admit that we have added another element that will change the equation a little bit. We go in the same direction. That's fascism. Mm-hmm. But we now have terrorism, which now, just lately, you're starting to see all this dialogue about, well, we have a right not to give, here we go again, constitutional rights to those who might be involved in terrorism. Now, they did that with Padilla already. If you remember what happened with Padilla, he was a U.S. citizen that got thrown in a brig for 3 years, no speedy trial, which means no habeas corpus. And it's like, well, look, man, they've done this all the time, but here's where I'm going. Unlike World War II and the Nazi mentality that drew whatever they needed to draw from their population to do what they did, here you're going to see something where intrinsically, internally, I think they're going to now take the definition of terrorism, pull it off the Muslim Arabs, and lay it on people like, well, ourselves.
Exactly.
Now we have this conversation now about, hey, we don't have to give them habeas corpus. So what they're just saying is, screw your ass and your U.S. citizenship. We're going to throw you in jail, and that's the end of it.
Yeah. Well, Viz, we have no rights, as you pointed out many, many times. They're privileges, and they can withdraw those whenever they want.
And they do that, and that's why people who bang on the Constitution saying, well, I want my... what I'm ready to do is, and I'm not going to do it because I'm not going to call into these fools, when everybody talks about my Constitution, I'm like, when was the last time you used it, asshole? When was the last time you used the Constitution? Just tell me. Well, shut up. You know what I mean? They never, you got nothing. It's all words. It's platitudes. It's just sound bites.
Yeah.
And they say this shit, the Constitution. Yeah? When was the last time you actually used it?
Well, the thing that gets me is, like, when they start talking about the Constitution, they sound like some kid that just got out of civics class in high school who's all fired up about all his rights,
Look, these
and
are...
the naivety of these people to think that this country really operates along the lines of the Constitution. That's a formality. That's something that's put in front of you. Excuse me.
Yeah, go get a drink of water, will you?
Yeah, I'm trying some water here.
All right, I said something to Denton, which I thought was interesting, because you talk about the Constitution, and what I said to him was this possibly preemptory conversation about the Constitution as it would be after the Civil War. Now, this little paragraph comes from James Polk, all right? Mm-hmm. He said, and this is from his inaugural address, he says the Constitution itself, written as it is, it's the safeguard of our, get this, federated compact, there we go, the offspring of concession and compromise, binding together in the bonds of peace and union this great and increasing family of free and independent states. Now get all through that. What does he say? He's saying that the Constitution is a federative compact, which we've talked about, and that it binds together the increasing family of states. So my point is, there's a 14th Amendment kind of, precursor. That what's going to happen is, after this 14th Amendment is passed, and I mean, I don't mean to place too much on it, but the point is they finally just said, hey, look, guess what? Screw your states' rights. You're a citizen of the United States, and that's how it goes because, again, the Constitution, that's why I like what he said, was a compact, a federal compact between, and I'm kind of adding this in a little bit, but it's still there to be seen. It's a federative compact that binds the states to what? The federal government. So it was all there to happen, and so it was necessary that that would be the case after the Civil War, and that's why I think that there was never supposed to be two, as I said earlier at the outset of the show, two different countries. No. They ribboned the United States, they let them go at each other, and when they sewed them together even more closely, federated, Sovietized, call it what you want, than it was beforehand. And then the deal was done. Now, I want to say something to you. I go in with Lady Viz to get our, our registrations renewed. We lapsed because we didn't get stuff sent through the mail when we moved. And I went in there, and I don't even know who the cop was there. I couldn't tell what kind of cop he was. It didn't look like he was city, county, I don't know. But the thing is, your license is a state license. But it's federal in the sense that you can drive outside, for instance, you can drive outside Texas because you have the driver's license. The number that you have on that license, we've talked about this, is the same one you've had forever. If you've never had more than one driver's license, and I have. Yeah,
I've only had a Texas driver's license, but you pointed out that same number stays with you
8 states.
If you move to California or Maine or wherever.
And your name is in caps, again, which talks to your federal persona. So my point is, yes, it's state issued, but it allows you to drive in other states, and obviously that's federal. That's why your name is in caps on your driver's license. That's why your number never changes.
I never knew that about the caps thing. That's kind of interesting.
Well, you pop up in caps in a lot of things, and usually it has to do with you being an employee of the United States of United States of America Incorporated. Now you can call yourself an employee, you can call yourself a slave, call whatever you want. But that is the old story, which I don't get deep into, but I do understand. There's a natural individual, which is Larry, the human being, which is the I-man, flesh and blood, which is me. But you have another persona, and that is of some inclusion in... You
are an entity of some sort to the government.
In USA. In
relation to the government, I should say.
Now, what started and ended the problem I had with the Collins brothers, because we never saw eye to eye on some stuff, and I just said, look, let it go. We'll talk about our commonalities, but leave that other stuff alone, man. Once in a while they popped it in, and I let it go. But they went ape on us, and I mean us as in Randy Morgan's, Gordon, and myself. And Randy stepped up and gave him, what for? And they said, well, oh yeah, you think the United States is not a corporation? Well, the hell it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Well, they wanted to take it for their own means. It's like, we'll try to put your commodities on the, on the stock market. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? My point is, again, that's what they do. Fine. That was an argument that they included, which was bogus to begin with. But yes, the capital letters are you as a different entity, as your flesh and blood. And that's why with mortgages, and that's why with a lot of dealings, especially with the IRS, you are capital letters Larry, and I'm capital letters, Keith Hansen and all that. And that's the way it goes, and that's the way it always is. And even the Collins brothers were cracking on, well, what do you think this is, Roman law? It's like, yes, assholes, it is
basically,
Roman law. There you go, yeah. That we are considered persons, which means slaves, in the eyes of the incorporation, but so are private corporations. They're seen as persons too. Now,
Right.
what I just said and we'll close this thing out. Thank you for letting me vent here. But what I said to Lady Viz's boss, who's an excellent guy, very, very good finance mind. I don't want to get too crazy with him. But I said to him, I go, and look, I said, you and I are demanded to be patriotic. And you know where I'm going to go with this.
Mm.
That means they want more
yeah.
money or they want to kill us. How come corporations that are birthed here like you and me aren't asked to be patriotic? That if we want to do anything to harness that, we're told, oh, you can't do that. It's laissez-faire. Hey, where was it written? Was that an 11th commandment I missed? Corporations can do whatever they want to and leave when they wish? And he looked at me, and I had to say, and he just shook his head knowingly, like, well, you had a point there. We have to be patriotic, which means they're going to do something to us. But corporations, hell no. If we want to go someplace else, we're on our way. See you later. And that's when I laugh about the job talk that they do. Do you realize?
Oh, man. The thing that the people in this country that constantly pound on the greatness of capitalism, and how capitalism is so wonderful, blah, 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 and creates jobs and creates jobs. My God, the purpose behind a corporation is one and only one thing, to make profit for the shareholders. They don't give a damn about creating a job for you or anybody else. The only jobs that are created are jobs they need to make profit. And it's like these idiots that run around that, they think that because these are big corporations that exist within the United States, that they have some kind of loyalty to the American public and want to create jobs for the American. They could care less if you have a job or not. As long as they're making money, you can die in the street. They don't give a damn.
But isn't the rhetoric now, and I think you will agree, everything's now about small business. Small business has got to start the job.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, well, why is that? Because the corporations do not give a crap, and they will go where they have to maximize profit.
I mean, they're not going to create jobs. I mean, manufacturing jobs are not going to be here in any large quantity. I mean, don't people get it? They have deindustrialized the United States. They have taken the manufacturing plants. They have shut them down and moved them overseas, especially to the Pacific Rim and especially to Asia. They're not going to worry about creating a job for an American to make $15 an hour operating a machine, whatever, when they can go over to Asia and get somebody to do that same job for 25 to 50 cents an hour. An extremely skilled welder over there in that area of the world, in some of those countries, makes $5 an hour. Guess what? In the United States, you're not going to be able to find a welder who could make it on $5 an hour. He couldn't accept that wage even if he wanted to. And as a result, he's unemployed. And nobody cares whether they create a job for him because they're making a heck of a profit over there. They are exploiting, the people in Asia just the way that they exploited the people in this country a long time ago.
But what's happening, too, is, look, to me, capitalism could work if it was allowed to.
Yeah.
Socialism could work if it was allowed to. Any system could work if it was done honestly. Mm-hmm. It is not. So what we have is corrupted socialism. We have corrupted capitalism.
Everything is in the favor of the elites. What they really want is feudalism. That's the ultimate game plan. It's going to, what they want to do is go through and have a fascist takeover, which eventually becomes feudalism. Sure. And then it's like we've always said, you'll wind up being in a situation where you live in a hovel, you don't have very much to eat, and you live in fear that sometime in the middle of the night some guys are going to come by and drag you into a van and take you to a concentration camp and either work you to death or torture you and kill you right then and there. That's the world they want. They want people in abject fear and in abject poverty because they want more of the wealth for themselves, and they want to sexually abuse and financially and socially abuse people as much as they care to which is really what they're into.
Or as Monty Python said, how do you know he's a peasant? Well, he has shit on him. No, he doesn't have any shit on him. That's what he said.
Exactly.
Right. How do you know he's not a peasant? Oh, he doesn't have any shit on him. No, and I tell you, Monty Python drew a lot of information for their humor out of exactly what took place in the 13th and 14th centuries, and arguably others in Europe, and yet we're going right back to it.
They're driving us back into feudalism.
Well,
I think that's very well put in William Ramsey's book. The book about Aleister Crowley and 9/11 and the New World Order. Aleister Crowley, Prophet of Evil, guy talks about the end goal is not any of the systems that we know, communism, fascism, blah, blah, blah. It's feudalism.
Pure and simple. That's it. Right.
They're working toward this. And it'll come through fascism, and then it'll eventually become a new type of feudalism, a modern form of feudalism. And we're all going to be peasants. We're all going to be working on the big plantation, and it's just the way it is.
And as we said, I mean, the playing field will be level so that we're all treated equally as dogs.
Exactly.
So in the world to come, you're all going to make $5.35 an hour, no matter where the hell you are.
And you'll have a meal fit for a king. Here, king. Here, king. Had to throw some Henny Youngman in there.
I know, honestly. But this is what's taking place. But my original point, we'll close this out, was that unlike Germany, there will be a little bit of a twist on the modus operandi.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, it's got to be different.
Right.
I mean, the cultures are very different. I mean, German and American cultures, just really have there's a big gap between them. But, I mean, they'll do it in whatever way, and it's going to become worldwide eventually, and you're going to have, the beast system is coming, and that's what it's going to eventually be, is feudalism.
We don't get to look at Africa every day, but, those poor human beings have been under it, and there's no sunshine for them at all.
No, never has been.
And in South America, there's places like that as well.
Oh, yeah.
In Southeast Asia, that's happening
the whole
too.
third world, I mean, some of the third world countries are starting to come out of it and do a little better, and people have a little better lives. But by and large, and I'm talking about countries like India and China are starting to come out of it to an extent. But the majority of the third world lives in abject poverty. I mean, there's huge numbers of people in the third world who don't even know where their next meal is coming from, literally. They spend their entire day trying to find some way to eat, trying to scrape up enough money through working in one way or another to, or stealing or whatever they have to do just to eat.
And my claim is this. Because the United States have been, we've had it good, let's face it. I mean, there's been casualties all along the way.
Oh, yeah.
There's no saying there wasn't. But if you take anybody's life in any of the 50 states and compare it to somebody who's in, God knows where, it's pretty hard to say it's not been good for us. But that's coming to an end, and we know that. But through it all, we have to say, and this is where I want to lead out for what Gene had written in an email. The outcome isn't good. We can't say that there's a happy ending like we're all so used to in America. I think that when Americans, if they're put into a flash deprivation, which would be, I would say, an economic collapse, combined with any other kind of situation like another attack, I don't think they'll react. I think that they'll be walking around like the very fashionable thing to say now is they'll be walking around like zombies. Mm-hmm. But if they get pissed, they're going to look for someone to be pissed at, and that's when they're going to get manipulated to take all that fear, all that anger, all that hurt, and direct it with great energy either towards those of us in the United States who are now perceived as terrorists and or a threat abroad. If they ever want to get the pitchforks out, it's going to probably be manipulated to go after something else. That's what seems to be, let's put it this way. If I were Chief Prick, that's what I would do to them. You know what I mean? And I don't
Well,
think.
We're getting manipulated right now. The people of the Middle East, especially, are being manipulated right now to hate the United States and to want to go to war against the United States because of our support of Israel. And I don't really want to get into all of that.
No.
But this whole clash of civilizations thing that they've been working on now, especially since 9/11, and this whole, it's just two sides being manipulated to go to war. I mean, this Third World War is coming, and this Third World War will bring in world government. I mean, it just will. And when it does, you'll see feudalism all over the world. And anybody who doesn't knuckle under, you're dead. I mean, you're going to a concentration camp. You're toast. And I hate to say that, but that's the Bible pretty much point blank tells us that that this final system, which I believe will be a revival of the Roman Empire, because the Bible only talks about 4 world empires, and the last of the 4 was Rome, and it's still here in the form of the Roman Catholic Church. It never died. It just morphed into a different form, and it's going to become, a Roman Empire again with an emperor who I believe will be the man of sin, the son of perdition, as the Bible describes him. And I believe that the Pope will be a false prophet. It could be a Pope who is actually the emperor.
Well,
I'm not sure. It's not cast in stone as far as I'm concerned in my mind. I know that God has tried to tell us, what it's all about, but it's sometimes hard to interpret it all and get it all straight. But that's what I think. I know that's coming. I mean, I know there has to be a Third World War to bring it about. And I know that the Pike-Mazzini letter, and once again, I don't believe the Pike-Mazzini letter was real, but I do believe that the sentiments laid out there, the contentions laid out in that letter are perfectly logical, and it's coming about. And this last war, fomented because of the Zionists and the Muslims, Muslim radicals, it's coming about. I mean, it's there. You can see it. I mean, all you have to do is turn on the news, and you see them, pumping up this situation over there. I think Iran's going to get stronger, and there's going to be more trouble over there. We talked about the Federation of Muslim States in North Africa and the Middle East, and that's coming about. Egypt has been taken over by radical Islam. Egypt being the only country in the Middle East that really the Israelis thought they could rely on to help them maintain peace.
Well, but remember, the whole idea of this, too, if history books are written after this all takes place, and I'm sure they will, for at least, maybe, a millennium is a long time.
They may be written on stone tablets.
Well, the idea is that it will be seen as probably a main cause will be written as religious intolerance, so let's get rid of the religion.
Well, eventually we're going to have a world religion.
Right, but then that is the absence of religion. So in other words, really what's going to happen is, sorry to say, but all religion gets
emperor
whacked.
worship will be our new world religion, and it'll be, just like it was in the days of pagan Rome, when the emperor was worshipped as a god.
Well, the Muslim Arabs are going to take it in the teeth.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they're going to. They definitely they're going to get.
They're going to be given up.
Yeah, they're being set up right now.
No, and I'm not saying this because I hate them or anything. I'm just saying that they've been allowed to exist by the powers that be, and nobody really wants them around. So they're going to take it heavy duty. It's going to happen right in their backyard, no doubt about it.
They're in the way. I mean, they're in the way.
So
and they're going to get taken out.
Right.
They're being set up for it right now.
And in this last note, I just wanted to share with you something that Gina had written, and we kicked this around a little bit. And like I said, you'll have access to those emails, and you'll be able to kind of see where that thread was going. But the point of this whole thing is, I mean, he's been somebody who just came on the scene like over a year ago, stumbled in, obviously, through ominous parallels, believe it or not, and said, "Wow, that's making sense," and then felt his way through. Now, why whatever you want to call my show, whatever it is, has been unacceptable is because it has not provided a happy ending. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. It just doesn't have a happy
what
ending.
they don't get, the people that think that, what they don't understand or don't want to believe is what we're saying the happy ending is the second coming of Jesus Christ, and that eventually Christ will reign over the earth, and that there will be a new heaven and a new earth, and that we will live in a paradise with God, and that Christ will set things right.
But Larry,
that is the happy ending. They just don't want to believe it.
Larry, how many Christians or supposed Bible-believing evangelical Christians aren't going for it either?
Yeah.
That's what's really, really scary.
Yeah, that scares me. That scares me a lot more than people who come at it from a secular viewpoint. I could understand somebody thinking, well, that's kind of pie-in-the-sky baloney, But if you're supposed to be a Christian and you don't believe in the second coming of Jesus Christ and the new heaven and new earth...
Oh, they do, but what about the approach to it where we have to take up arms to kill those damn Muslims for the sake of...
Yeah.
All right, so I won't even go there, but you know what I mean?
Yes.
Where did you get that, folks? Because it ain't in Scripture. Where did Jesus say that?
Not.
No, it's from Hagee and these other characters. And, of course, really what we're dealing with now, and we always have, but it's always going to be this way. It's going to get even worse, and that is people play to the cult of personality.
Right.
And
Jesus said, my kingdom is not of this world.
Hello.
If it were, then my servants would fight. Where does it tell you to go get some weapons and go out and take on the Muslims? Where does it tell you that? Where does Jesus preach violence? What kind of a gun did Jesus carry? Come on. I mean, why do they try to hide behind Christianity? I get kind of frustrated with all that.
Said. I'm going to leave you on this a little bit melancholy note, but I think it's interesting. What Gene had said, written it in one of the last lines of an email, he said, came upon the information, he inculcated it, he made his decision, and he realized it is true. And then he said this, to a large degree, there is a sense of freedom I feel since consuming the material off the site, and that's, ours and all that.
Yeah.
He said, I'm lucky in that respect. It's been a good year. But he said there's a sense of freedom I feel. And I tell you what, that's really, and even if you don't play into the spiritual aspect, it is true that at least it's like, hey, look, man, just don't give me bull crap. I think a lot of human beings want to be just told the truth. And there is a liberating element in that. It may not be the way you wanted it, but I don't know. I think the way that a lot of people are wound, I think you are that way. I am. Obviously, Gene is. And it's like, look, don't give me bullshit. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Right.
What's the deal? Just let me know what the deal is, how much time I got, and what I can do.
Well, it's when you come to that realization as far as a political viewpoint that you can't vote in good government. You can't make things better through government. It's really not going to happen because human beings are flawed, because human beings are sinful. Human beings are corrupt. Once you come to that realization, there is a sense of freedom there, because you start to put your trust and faith in Jesus and in His promises. And, hey, am I scared about what's going to happen? Yeah, to some extent I am, because I'm a human being. I'm afraid that I might get blasted in a nuclear holocaust. I'm afraid I might wind up in a concentration camp. I'm afraid I might get tortured. I'm afraid somebody might hurt my family. I'm afraid I might starve to death. But I can't sit there paralyzed by fear, and I can't think, well, I can vote in good government and keep all those things from ever happening because America won't be a dictatorship. Well, America already is a dictatorship. America is part and parcel of the Fourth Reich of the New World Order, and it's getting worse. But I have Jesus and His promises, and I know that eventually, if I keep trying to live a Christian life and follow His principles, that good things will happen for me in the long run. And that's a sense of freedom. Just couple of lines there from your old Uncle Lair.
Go on with your story, Grandpa. No.
Oh man,
that's a reference to something we'll talk about another time. But I have to say this: the person who said the truth will set you free may not have been necessarily a Christian, but I think it does tell you after. I mean, for those who want to know, look, don't bullshit me. What's the situation? And I have to say it's universal. For those who know Jesus Christ, there's a very good upside to all this. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make us, like I said, any more pessimistic because we think we got it. No, it's not about that. But, I guess what I'm driving home is, I'm not commenting on Gene's spirituality whatsoever.
No.
But what he said, and that's when I wrote back and I said, yes, that's it. The thing is that I looked at him going, okay, is that the deal? All right, I got it. Now I can live my life in a way where I know what the parameters are, and I'm okay with that. And I mentioned this, and I'm going to throw this out to you. Did you ever see the movie On the Beach?
Yes, I did. Made a big impression on me as a kid.
All right, I was going to ask you that. Now, looking back at it then and looking back at now as an adult and all that you've seen in the last 10 years or so, all right, this is a leading question. I hate doing that kind of stuff. I'll just say for myself, I found it as the movie depiction of that, I felt was very real. I
did too. And it's funny that you bring that up because one of the reasons why it made such a big impression on me, I remember talking about my Uncle Vernon, who was a soldier in World War II in the very first episode we did. Well, I went to see that movie with my cousins, and my Uncle Vernon took me while I was visiting over in Alabama. And after we saw the movie, I guess I was 11 or 12. After we saw the movie, Uncle Vernon sat down with us and started talking about it. He said, boys, that really is the world we live in. He said, that really is possible. He said, I'm not trying to scare you. I hope it doesn't happen. But that could happen. That's the kind of world we live in. He said, we are in danger of someday going into a nuclear war that could, wipe out the majority of people in the world.
Well, did you feel that was an accurate portrayal about people who realized there's no use in asking why right now? It's happened. It's done.
Yeah.
And now what do you do?
Yeah. It was how do you recover? What do you do now?
All right.
What is the future? Yeah, I thought it was very good. Yeah, and that is a startling movie. That's just startling. I think that may be predictive programming.
The day after was good with Robards, but I tell you what, this one being a little bit more international.
Yeah.
So you have other people.
Yeah, I remember Waltzing Matilda was in that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The theme.
But,
the Australian song.
People behaved in different ways. The Fred Astaire character decided to commit suicide. Mm. And blah, blah, blah. Some wanted to go back and die, on the dock in California, if you remember that one. Mm-hmm. And to me, that was true. It's like there's a point at which, when it goes down, and again, this I guess gets into a liberating thing, and that is, I can't spend time asking why because it's done. Okay, it's just the way it is, and that's where I'm going with everybody in these patriot movements. Look, it's a fait complete. I'm telling you right now. However, if it's that way, it doesn't render life useless even to the last moment. Mm-mm. So how do you want to spend it? And do it. Don't throw it away. There is a certain amount of liberation that takes place, and if the information is not good or the reality is not good, okay. It is what it is, and I know that's a really played out aphorism right now. Yeah. But, hey.
Every once in a while, it does ring true, though. It's the recognition of this is the situation, and that is how it's going to be, and you have to determine how you're going to deal with it because you can't change it. And that's really what's coming. I choose to try to enjoy what's left of the rest of my life. Whatever pleasure I can get, and if I can help somebody, and if I can do something to help the Lord, if He can use me in some way, that's great.
There is nothing to, I think, trump a statement that's very true, and that is the peace of the Lord transcendeth all. It passeth all understanding. Mm-hmm. I will say this, and I'll do this separately at another time. In the time that I was involved in prison ministries and Juvian ministries, and those who are drug addicted. I'll tell you right now, and we talk about Joel Osteen and all this other crap. There is the true cross and the true crown will be found in those ministries.
Right.
Amongst those who work with the unpleasant, shall we say, that's where it's at. And in those days when things get rough, people are going to take a look and go, why aren't you freaking? And that's a great opportunity. So let it be the case. I wish we were living in some other fat time, but it isn't the way it is, and it's okay.
No.
We had a good run.
No.
And
yeah, it would be great if, the world was the way it was in 50s, 50s television when, everything seems right, or seemed right to me as a kid, We were the good guys, and we knew we had to do the right thing, and living in America was so great, and blah, 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 but, it's just not the way it is.
I just want to know why my older father didn't come home and wear a tie and sweater at dinner like Ward Cleaver did.
Yeah, my dad was worked in a refinery, an oil refinery. He'd come home in coveralls and a hard hat. A little different.
By the way, Anson Williams, who played Potsy in Happy Days, in an interview in the 70s, while the show was it was kind of like at its height, maybe it's coming down the far side of the hill a little, but Anson Williams goes, I think in those days, and I got to tell you, they weren't all that happy. We color what's behind us in a certain color. Yeah,
we get a nostalgia about the times past and start to play them up as being a lot better than they really were.
And no one's worse than your host into this world of darkness than I.
Well, I dig it, man, because I understand what you're trying to do, and where you're going in your mind, because I lived in that same era, and I retreat back to those times because there's a comfort for me in that. And every once in a while I need a little bit of an escape, and, I retreat back to those times.
Hey.
It's the way it is,
I know. I have to laugh because it's like, what is it? Good old tell like it is Joe South,
Yeah.
Fool me one more time. You can fake just for old time's sake. So there we go. And I'm going to leave us with a song. I'm going to tell you this right up front. I usually don't do this.
Yeah.
With a song that was kind of haunting. Just done really well, I think, from the early 90s or late 80s, whatever. And it talks about liberation and relief, and I'll just tell you that. Oh, by the way, did you like Dallas?
Dallas, the show?
No, the song that outroed your last
segment.
Yeah,
I did. It seemed to work out pretty well.
Do you know who that was?
No, I don't.
It was Poco.
Yeah, I remember them kind of vaguely. Kind of country rock, yeah.
Bro, at this time we remember everything kind of vaguely.
Yeah, that's true,
All right. Listen.
If you remember the 60s, you weren't there?
Well, I like that.
I don't totally agree with that, but, I kind of get it.
I like the shirts they did at Bill Clinton. You remember when he made a statement he never inhaled?
Yeah.
They came out with shirts that said, I never exhaled. We don't have to go on with that, do we?
Oh. Oh, man, the 60s. Yeah, looking back on it, it was a lot of fun, but it also was a pretty scary time. People think about, flower children and all that. Man, I remember a lot of violence in the 60s.
I'll tell you, the 60s is the only decade that lasted two.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Larry, thanks for being with us. And
sure.
Are you going to bother me next week?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've got something I want to go to next week, but I'll talk to you during the week and figure it out. All
right, no problem. This is part 27. Goros is saying that he's betting we'll go to 100. I'm going, no, it's not that bad. But we'll pick this up. And also, this will be preserved in entirety as a freebie. So
yeah. Well, when we started off, I thought, well, we'll do a few, maybe a half dozen, and, that'll be the end of it. But, there's so much material to cover, and it's so much, it's so apropos to the situation that we live in now that, and the more research I would do, there was more subjects to cover, And it's just a shame. I mean, I hope that folks sometimes will pick up on some of the stuff I'm reading from and maybe read it themselves. I'm pretty sure some of them have.
All right, now that you've said this, and I know it's a little bit of a task, but if you give yourself some time, and we do have that, if you did create a bibliography, that wouldn't be a bad idea, and we can attach that.
Sure. I was thinking about doing that.
All right, good.
Yeah, but I'm lazy.
Yes, you are. And you will do it because now you've said it, and everybody will think you're
everybody
a very
goes,
bad person if you don't.
You phony.
Yeah, and I will help that. Along, no doubt about it.
Yeah. I'll do the best I can.
Yeah, I'm here for you, baby.
Oh, that's what my ex-wife said.
Well, we're both Scandinavian. What does that tell you? And that, all right.
Yeah, she was behind me all the way. She kicked me right over the cliff.
Well, I think a Groucho.
Oh, man, I'm not going to bust on her.
What did Groucho say?
I'll stop now. I'm not bitter. I'm just hurt. Oh, man.
What did Groucho say to Dumont?
I don't remember.
If
I'm fighting for this lady's honor, which is more than she can say.
If I get any closer, I'll be behind you. All right, go away, and I'll see you when we see each other.
Okay, take it easy, man.
God bless you, brother.